Hey everybody, it's Dr. Blake, the Cooking Doc. Thank you so much for joining me today. We have a great topic. We're going to talk about kidney stones. Never talked about that before, but before we get going, here are two things. First, though I am a kidney doctor and a nephrologist, I am not your doctor. So discuss any medical changes and anything that you want to do regarding your health with your doctor, your dietitian, your own nurse practitioner. Everything we do here is for educational and informational purposes only. Second, let's start by seeing if you can tell me what these things have in common. Beer, apple cider vinegar, cranberry juice, pomegranate juice, celery juice, dandelion root, lemon juice with olive oil, watermelon, and kidney beans. Well, those are all things that people have come to me as a kidney doctor and told me that these are the things that work for their kidney stones. Some of them are true, some of them are not so true. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned. Top 5 myths about food and kidney stones. Let's go. All right, thanks everybody for joining me today. We are joined by a special guest, a kidney dietitian, the kidney dietitian, Melanie Betz from the University of Chicago. Melanie, it's great to have you here. Maybe you can take a minute and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yes, thank you so much, Blake. So my name is Melanie. I am a dietitian certified in renal nutrition. I spend most of my time working at the University of Chicago in the nephrology department. So I see patients who have all sorts of different kidney conditions, including chronic kidney disease and kidney stones, which we're here to talk about today. And then I also have started sort of a side hustle about a year ago, which is the kidney dietitian. So I have a blog and an online course. And my goal with both of those things is to truly spread science-based, accurate nutrition information for kidney health, because I feel that there's so much misinformation out there, specifically related to kidney stones. And so I really wanted to do my part to kind of get good information out there into the world. So that is a little bit about me.
The website is fabulous, and the internet in general is full of misinformation about kidney stones, and we're going to get into some of that today. But your website is science-based and straightforward and a great resource for anybody looking for information about kidney stones.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. My goal is to really help simplify it as much as possible. I think that it sometimes gets so confusing. You hear sodium and oxalate and calcium and potassium, and there's so many things, and it really doesn't need to be that confusing for most people, right? It's I try to make it as simple and straightforward as possible.
So maybe today we can bust some of the common myths about kidney stones and food. And so we're going to go through 5 of them, and I'm going to introduce them, kind of the most common ones that I see. And then you can tell us whether or not these are myths or facts, and how you teach people to get to the truth about these things.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one, as a kidney doctor, I see lots of people with kidney stones, and there are different kinds of stones, but if you look on the internet or you try to figure out what to eat to prevent your stones, oftentimes everything is lumped into one. So a myth that I comment here is that there's only one diet to treat kidney stones. So how do you approach that? And what do you think about that, Melanie?
Yeah, I think that maybe is partially why it gets so complicated because there are different types of things that you have to keep in mind when you're choosing healthy foods for different kinds of kidney stones. And so if you go out and do your research, you might, read something about maybe uric acid kidney stones, and then you read something about maybe calcium oxalate kidney stones. And if you're trying to do all of those things all at the same time, there's nothing left to eat, understandably, right? So yes, I think if you are wanting to work on kidney stone prevention, I think that it's very, very important that you ideally have your kidney stone analyzed. So if you, oftentimes the doctors will do that if you get it taken out or they go in and break it up, a lot of times they'll analyze it, and that will really help you sort of hone in and figure out what you should be eating. Or if you maybe weren't able to have your stone analyzed, or even if you did, there's something called a 24-hour urine test, which really, really helps you sort of hone in exactly what you should be doing for prevention. And that 24-hour urine test is really the gold standard, because that will tell you exactly what's sort of off in your urine, and that will tell you what you can do to really help prevent them from happening in the future.
The 24-hour urine test is great, even for nephrologists like me who maybe aren't the smartest nephrologists, but we can do a 24-hour urine test and send it to a company that gives us a really detailed, specific set of results where I don't even have to think too hard. So it's something called the Litholink test, and you can often ask your doctor to do that on a 24-hour urine test. So there is not one diet that fits everybody who has kidney disease, because there's multiple different types of kidney stones. But what about people who don't know what kind of kidney stones that they have? Either they know they had a kidney stone, but it didn't get analyzed. They can't go to a doctor to do their 24-hour urine test. What are some basic dietary guidelines you can give them?
Yeah. I would say the number one thing that you can do that is kidney stone prevention 101 is drinking as much water as you possibly can, basically, within reason. So for most people, we recommend drinking around 3 liters of fluid per day. And that will, the reason that water is so important is because that really helps dilute all of the stuff that's kind of floating around in your urine that could be forming that kidney stone. So if you go back to like high school chemistry, right, and you were kind of putting as much solute in fluid as you could to see when it started precipitating out, that's exactly what a kidney stone is. And so we want to make your body produce as much urine as possible so it gets diluted and you reduce your risk of stones.
Okay, myth number 2. So in the past, a lot of the guidelines for dietary changes for kidney stones told people to limit their calcium, which kind of makes sense because most stones have calcium in them. So you figure you eat less calcium, you produce less stones, but that's not correct. So what do you tell people about the calcium in their diet, and why is that wrong?
Yeah, it's very counterintuitive. Definitely, because you think, well, if I have a calcium kidney stone, so I should probably eat less calcium, right? There's 2 big reasons why we care about calcium so much, and we want people who have calcium kidney stones to be eating a higher calcium diet or making sure that they're getting enough calcium in their diet. So the first reason has to do with that oxalate. So the most common type of kidney stone is calcium oxalate, and so calcium really loves to bind with oxalate, right? That's why it forms kidney stones. But we can use that binding to our advantage if we eat foods that are high in calcium with other foods that have oxalate in them to help reduce how much oxalate gets absorbed into our bodies. So we know that people who will eat diets that have enough calcium in them have lower amounts of oxalate in their urine because our bodies don't absorb it. So that's the first reason why that calcium is so important. And the second reason has to do with your bones. So we all of us, bone health is certainly important, but it's very, very important for people who have calcium kidney stones because just because you have calcium kidney stones, you're at greater risk of osteoporosis and bone fractures. And so we really want to make sure that you're getting enough calcium to help protect your bones because of those kidney stones. So those are kind of the two big reasons why we care so much that you are eating enough calcium, even though you have calcium kidney stones.
It's totally counterintuitive.
Doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. But you explained it so well. If you come to a website that says limit your calcium, just click away.
Close it out. Yeah.
Close it out.
Close that out.
check out Melanie's website instead for the real deal. Okay, so the next myth is we're going to talk about a little bit about lemon juice and actively dissolving your kidney stones. So I'll hear this all the time. It's amazing what people will do to try to get rid of their active stones when they're causing them so much pain. So one thing that people try to do is drink a lot of lemon juice, or they drink a lot of beer. What do you tell people who want to drink lemon juice, and if they ask you if that lemon juice will dissolve the kidney stones that they have?
Yeah. So unfortunately, lemon juice likely isn't going to dissolve a kidney stone. However, lemon juice and quite frankly, all fruits and vegetables can be really good at preventing other kidney stones from forming. And the reason is something called citrate. So citrate is makes it more difficult for calcium and oxalate and most types of kidney stones from forming. And so the more citrate you have in your urine, the better. Um, and lemon juice is sort of a very popular, most known source of that citrate. And so if you do have quite a bit of lemon juice in your diet, you can actually increase the amount of citrate in your urine, which makes kidney stones less likely. I think the concern, though, is that is sort of the amount of lemon juice. So if you use a little bit of lemon, maybe in your water or sprinkle a little bit on some chicken, like that's fine. That's certainly not going to hurt you, but it's probably not really going to make a big difference in terms of increasing that urine citrate. So the recommendation is usually somewhere around a half a cup of lemon or lime juice per day. And that's going to be enough to really, really move the needle in terms of that urine citrate. The other thing is that not everyone who has kidney stones has low urine citrate. So if you don't have low citrate in your urine, it's probably not going to do you a whole lot of good. And that's where that 24-hour urine test comes into play. And that will tell you if your citrate is low in your urine and if that lemon juice is something that really would be beneficial for you.
Okay, so you said a half a cup of lemon juice?
A half a cup. Yep.
Okay, so if you have a glass of water, how much lemon juice can you put in that and it still be
I mean,
drinkable?
that I love lemon juice, so,
Okay.
so I could probably do quite a bit. But I suppose if you use that half cup across that 3 liters of water that you should be drinking anyway throughout the whole day, that can, it ends up being a more reasonable amount, although it is quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a lot.
Well, actually, in this day and age, anywhere you go, you see people carrying those ginormous water bottles because they think
Yeah,
that's going to cure all their ills. And so you can fit right in if you have kidney stones. Just
very trendy.
very trendy. You fill one of those huge things with water and just put
Yeah.
a half a cup of lemon juice in it, and
Yep.
nobody will know, and you'll fit right in. It's
Yeah,
perfect.
absolutely. Absolutely. The other thing that I sometimes like to encourage people to do is a really big part of kidney stone prevention in most cases is a low sodium diet. And lemon juice is delicious and a really great way to add a lot of flavor to your food. So if you make it a habit of putting a fair amount of lemon juice on your chicken or to brighten up the flavor of soups or in salad dressings, that's a great way to get actually a fair amount of it. That can add up throughout the day too. So that's another way to think about incorporating it, as well as adding a lot of good flavor to your food without sodium.
It's a great idea. It's a great way to flavor food without adding a lot of salt and get your lemon juice, your citric acid, and lower your risk of kidney stones. All right, well, let's go. Let's talk about our next myth and our top 5 myths. And these are the things that we see, me as a doctor and Melanie as a dietitian. These are things that confuse people often when they're trying to figure out what the right diet is for their kidney stone. And this is misinformation that's on the internet or from Uncle Joe. Somebody's going to tell you these myths that aren't necessarily true. So we're here to bust a few of them today and really get you on the track towards eating food that is scientifically proven to really help you prevent kidney stones from occurring. So the next myth, Melanie, is one that you mentioned that I had never heard of before. I had heard of the beer and you hadn't, and you mentioned watermelon as something to eat to prevent kidney stones. And that was new to me, but I Googled it and apparently that's out there. So where does that come from? And is that true?
I honestly don't know where that comes from. And I would say it's not true, although watermelon is a very healthy food to eat. So let me explain a little bit more. There are so many foods that claim to dissolve or help prevent kidney stones. Watermelon is one of them. Olive oil is another one. Kidney beans is another one. There's so many. And I think, the important thing to remember about healthy diet for kidney stone prevention or kidney disease, or quite frankly, any health condition, it's always about the pattern of foods and sort of your how you put foods together and your whole dietary pattern. There is practically never one food that you totally have to eat because that's going to prevent kidney stones, or on the flip side, one food that you totally can't eat, right? um, so yes, so watermelon is not going to necessarily be better than any other fruit for kidney stone prevention. If you love watermelon, great. It's a fruit in general is a wonderful thing for kidney stone prevention. So please go ahead and enjoy your watermelon, but you don't have to have watermelon. As long as you're getting in some fruit, you're good.
All right, Melanie, let's talk about the last myth that we often hear. And this is a complicated one, in my opinion, because it may have some truth to it in some ways, but the line is difficult to figure out where the myth is and where the fact is. So the people who are looking up the diet to eat for kidney stones often come across oxalate and high oxalate foods. And so the first thing that they do when they see that, if there's somebody who's really trying to focus their diet on a way to prevent kidney stones, is they make a clear distinction and they say, I'm going to cut out all foods that are high in oxalate. So when somebody comes to you as a dietitian teaching them about kidney stones with the thought that they're going to cut out all high oxalate foods, what do you tell them? Is that true?
So this one is tough because it is a line, and it's tough because it's very different for everyone. I will say that the vast majority of people only need to avoid maybe 5 high oxalate foods. And the problem is when you Google high oxalate foods, you're going to get hundreds of different lists, likely that say completely different things about foods that are high or low oxalate and things you shouldn't be eating. But there are only really a few foods that are very high in oxalate and much higher than any other food on the list. And so I think for most people, simply cutting out those few foods that are very high, which are spinach, almonds, and almond products. So like almond butter, almond flour, those types of things, rhubarb, and beets. So it's not that many things, right? So simply taking away those things. And what's actually the most effective way at lowering the amount of oxalate in your urine is making sure you get enough calcium. So going back to our myth number 1, I think it is, if you're eating calcium with your meals, your body's not going to be absorbing that oxalate anyway. And plus you'll be protecting your bones. So for most people, simply taking out those foods and getting in calcium brings urine oxalate down to safe levels.
So spinach, almonds, rhubarb, and beets. Those are the big ones.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. And those should be reasonable if you have high oxalate and you're trying to avoid that. You've had the 24-hour urine test. Those are good ones to just kind of cross off your list. And the whole shotgun approach to avoiding all high oxalate foods really will limit your diet in a way that is unnecessary, create added stress and burden for you. So, get that 24-hour urine test, talk to a dietitian. Is there a resource that you recommend that people go to online to really get the truth about oxalate, and if they really want a little bit of a longer list rather than those 4 things?
Yeah, I'm going to do a self plug here and say my website is a pretty good resource for kidney stones. So again, that's thekidneydietitian.org.
Melanie has an online class. Maybe you can tell us about that before we go.
Sure, that would be great. So my course is Kidney Stone Nutrition School, and it's a 6-week online course. So I launch it 3 to 4 times a year. And if you sign up during one of those launches, you also get to join in live group calls with me. So you you listen to the lessons on your own time, and we'll really kind of walk through that 24-hour urine test and really help you understand what's going on. And then I'll help you know exactly what you can do to help nutrition-wise help fix as much as nutrition can whatever is off in your urine to help reduce those stones.
Thanks everybody for watching. I hope you picked up some good information here today, and it'll help you kind of sort through the myths about kidney stones and give you some guidance on where to go when you're trying to figure out how to change your diet in a way to help manage and prevent future kidney stones from forming. People that have kidney stones often have them a second time later in their life. So really making that change as early as you can to help prevent that stone, and making changes in a way that are science-based and truth and not myth. I hope we got you started on the right track today. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you never miss a new recipe, a new episode, or a new health tip. And we will see you next time.